Welcome to the Hardcore MBA podcast with your host, Erlend Bakke.
Hello and welcome to Hardcore MBA. Today I'm wearing my Oklahoma Thunder jumper as I just came back from Oklahoma. And I'm actually in the process of investing in real estate myself. And oftentimes when I want to do something, what do? Well, I don't go out there and just do it. I often get on board some experts that know a lot about the area where I'm going to be heading. So that's why I invited Nick Ruiz here today. He is the best-selling author of a book called Flip. He has been a self-made millionaire twice in real estate. Okay, so basically he built stuff up, then he lost it all in the 2008 crash, and now he's done it again. He's rebuilt himself. Where are you signing in from?
I am signing in from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Freezing Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Can't stand it, but I'm here having fun.
You just came back from holiday.
I had a little mini vacation with the family. Yep. So now we're just getting back into the groove, talking to my buddy Erlend here, and we're just hanging out. Loving it.
So can you tell us a little bit about your story from like early beginnings to the 2008 crash and what that did to you?
Yeah, did a lot to me, did crazy amounts to me. The crash of 2008 and the bankruptcy that it forced me into was the best thing that ever happened to me. Now, I'll go back, but I want people to understand that up front. Like, listen up. What it did to me was substantially beautiful. Didn't know it at the time, but it was shaping many points of wisdom and different degrees and perspectives that I never would have perceived without this quote unquote negative event. So my late teens, I've always been an entrepreneur, always having fun, buying, selling. Just I was a move maker. I love the art of the deal. I mean, literally the art of the deal, and just buying things, selling things, connecting with people, had fun. I did fireworks in grade school. High school turned into CD players and pagers back in those days, if anyone listening remembers, if they're old enough to remember. But after high school, I knew I wanted to scale this. I knew I was doing some things with business on small scale. I'm a high school kid making a few bucks, but I knew I wanted to create the real wealth. I wanted a real business now. I was 18 years old. I didn't really want to go to college. I tried it for half a semester and just dropped out just because I was like, what am I doing? Like, this is what you're supposed to do. This is BS. I'm not, I'm bigger than this and better than this for me. I'm not, saying everyone's bigger and better than college. But for me personally, I just knew that my skill set and my intuition drove me a different direction. So late night, I saw an infomercial. Okay. Late night infomercial, no money down real estate. Okay. And I was like, okay, I did know real estate was a wealth creator. In fact, the reality is real estate is really the number one wealth creator and wealth maintainer in the world. So if you're a heart surgeon making $1 million a year, you're buying real estate for tax purposes, et cetera. So to maintain your wealth, you get what I mean? So you're creating and maintaining wealth with real estate. It's just always has been, always will be. It's a timeless business. Nowadays, we got all these things hitting us in the face. It's timeless. So anyways, I'm like, okay, put up the credit card, $250. 2 weeks later, I get, workbooks and CDs in the mail, or I think it was even VHSs. I can't remember, but I went through the whole program.
What is a VHS?
What is a VHS? Yeah, it's this black thing with the tape in there, and you just put it in and fast forward, rewind. No. So workbooks, the whole nine. Went through it all in like a week, devoured this huge, monstrous program because I wanted to get started. But back in those days, my entrepreneurial maturity wasn't as good. So I was, I probably did a few quick things, and then I kind of ran into a brick wall, which is standard in entrepreneurship. Brick walls are gonna happen. But I was immature enough to be like, I don't know if I want to mess with this. It's not perfectly easy. So I put it on the shelf, go back to the job I was at in sales, which I always loved salesmanship as well. And after a couple months, I'm like, I got to do this. Like, I'm sick of living paycheck to paycheck, blah, blah, blah. I pull out the cord.
What was the main barrier there? Like you at this point you bought the program, you had the information, but then you went back and you worked and then you waited. What was the main barrier for you to?
I think it was a matter. the main barrier that kind of stopped me a little.
Mm.
I can't remember totally, but I remember it just being not easy. Like you think you order everyone thinks, oh, I'll order this program and I'll just press this button and all of a sudden money will go into my bank account. It's like, no, you actually got to work and there could be things that come up that you have to overcome. And I didn't feel like overcoming anything. I was immature. I was 18 years old. So I don't know exactly what it was, but it was something along those lines. So then I pull it back out. I'm like, let me just pull out a couple things. Forget the whole program. Let me just grab out one or two things that I think I can make work, and we'll go from there. So the bottom line is, I took a little action, talked to a couple sellers, and I ended up buying a duplex, which is, for those people listening, 2 units under one roof, with no money down. I worked out a creative deal with the seller, and I don't recommend starting this way in real estate. By the way, this is how I started. I don't teach my students to start this way. There's much less riskier and easier ways to do it now. But back then, that's what I did. So I bought a duplex. I worked it out where I gave the seller his price and added more on the mortgage. And then he kicked me back so I could get into this property with nothing out of my pocket and the repairs with nothing out of my pocket. So after everything was said and done, I bought a duplex with nothing out of my pocket and I rented out 2 units and I was making $500 a month passively. Not rich, but I'm like, okay, $500 a month coming in where I don't have to go out and work for it. It's the work has been done one time. That's the most beautiful business in the world to me. I like businesses where you do work once and you get paid residually, royalties, passive. That's beautiful income. So anyways, I was like, let me do this again. So I went to a bank, borrowed against that one, to put a down payment on the next one. So there's no money out of my pocket. I just used borrowing. Bought another duplex and it equated out to about another $500 a month. So now I'm making $1,000 a month, which again, 19, whatever, I almost 20-ish at the time, 19 years old. $1,000 a month comes out to like $250 a week. That's beautiful. I mean, for where I was at, I was like, this is not bad.
And
How do I do
how
this
old were you
again?
at the time?
I think like 19-ish, maybe 20, around there.
That's pretty young to have
Yeah.
a real estate empire.
Well, the start of one anyway. The
Yeah.
seeds of one was being planted. So then all of a sudden, the borrowing I was still young and I wasn't able to borrow anymore. So I sold the first one, walked away with like 21,000 or something, which again, that was in itself. I'm like, I have 21,000 cash in my hand at 20 years old. That's unbelievable. So, and then I was like, let me do this with the second one. I sold the second one and the market was climbing back then. So everything was extra peachy. Walked away with 32 or 35,000. Okay. And I'm like, whoa, like, why would I work? I mean, the passive income was nice, but I just received a check for 20 something and 30 something pretty quickly. And that like lump sum, I was like, people work all year for this. I did this instantly. So I took those funds and I was really strategic in rolling more money back in. And I built a business to where in my mid to late 20s, I had close to 70 buildings, rental properties, multiple crews working for me, just a huge operation, 7-figure net worth. Like I was running something huge, like not just boom, employees, the whole nine.
Did you have the cars and everything as well?
I never got into super flashy stuff. I was actually pretty obsessive about, I was obsessed with growth. And I was like, if I put $1 out to this car or that car, that's one less way I can grow my money. And that, everybody's different. You know what I mean? I traveled a lot and I went to Las Vegas a lot and did a lot of crazy things that way. And I blew fortunes in Las Vegas. I'm not even gonna lie to you, gambling and but I never really got into cars and that kind of thing. But we a lot of traveling. Bought a nice house in a nice area for my family early on. So what happened was there was a lot of leverage. I did a lot of borrowing to get to these 70 buildings that I was at, and it was good.
So you were constantly like you would go from like 2, 4, 8, 16.
Yeah, just
you were
an
like
exponential.
Yeah,
I was just
exponential growth.
compounding, and I kept on borrowing, like in a compounding kind of way, like you're talking about, and it was great. And as long as the market kept climbing, this model would work, right? I mean, it was just if it kept going up, I was fine. But bubbles burst, and what happened in 2008, for those people listening that may not know, is the U.S. had the largest financial crisis since the Great Depression, back in the 30s, and it was no joke. Like in the housing and mortgage market was the creator and leader of this huge collapse, in the stock market and everything else. But I had houses that lost 70 and 80% of their value or more sometimes. So pretty devastating. And Banks were calling loans due. It was just a crazy time. Tenants were losing their jobs and not paying because of the crisis. So this kind of perfect storm of events, Erland, forced me into
So
bankruptcy.
it's like
I
it's
mean,
like
there's
a,
a,
it's
there's
like
a
a
lot of
domino.
gaps.
It's like a domino.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly what it was. House of cards, dominoes. It was just think, 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 think. All these different events lined up to create my demise, right? Um, and
So
again, a lot.
looking back at that, what could you have done differently? Like, could you have just not try to scale so much? Should you have sold before? Like, I mean,
Well, looking back with hindsight being 2020, I would have sold everything I had at the peak, which
mm,
was 2000, late 2006, early 2007. I should have sold everything.
mm.
I would have walked away with a lot of money and I would have been hunky dory. But looking back though, no one knew, no one spotted it. I mean, there's banks that were around for 150 years that closed their doors. No one saw I mean, hey, there's always corrections in the marketplace, stock market. Every asset class has spikes, corrections, spikes, corrections. Look at any chart of any asset class. There's always a correction. Nothing is straight up sustainable. Okay. But no one saw this kind of collapse. We knew it was going to correct. We just didn't know it was going to correct at this level. So, because it was a complete collapse, is the best way I can say it. I mean, it's just explosion. And again, the dominoes, like you said, forced me down into the ground and eventually forced me into where I had to file bankruptcy, which was very painful. Something I can't even imagine. If someone 5 years prior said, "Hey, Nick, you're going to file bankruptcy," I would have laughed in their face. You know what I mean? But it was a beautiful experience looking back, and it shaped me in a way as an entrepreneur. It was the best personal and entrepreneurial thing that had happened to me. Um, because it taught me a lot of lessons. I call it a super experience. People get older, they as people who are in their 70s and 80s have all this wisdom because of their experience. When crazy things happen to you in one short period of time, I believe that compounds and compacts, I should say, decades worth of wisdom into a short time, which is nice. So if you're going through something extremely crazy, understand that it's a super experience that's putting a huge notch in your belt, that actually moving forward you're going to be a lot wiser, which is there's knowledge and there's wisdom. Wisdom is earned, knowledge can be learned. And when you earn those kinds of things, you'll be thankful for it afterwards. During the storm, it's hard to be thankful. Believe me, the pain is real and the pain is severe. Being broke after you had a bunch of money is much more painful than just always being broke, as that's your life. So if you've always been broke, it's like, yeah, I don't like being broke, but when you've been here and now you're here, believe me, the pain is very severe.
So what are the
So,
what did you do at that point? So you've gone from there.
yeah.
What's the next?
Well,
What do you do?
I knew in theory what I was supposed to do. Listen, I've been listening to Tony Robbins and reading books and very, always been involved in developing my mind and myself into being a better person. And in theory, the steps. Oh, when you're facing tragedy, here's what you do. You think positive and all these different things. And but when you're really truly going through it, it's the logic isn't always there because you're in fight or flight, which is a completely different part of the brain that takes over and kind of destroys a lot of your logical thinking because you got a family, you're scrambling. So it's a lot of emotion that comes out, which I've learned to develop and be strategic and be able to detach from. That's one of the things I've learned is how to detach from situations and events emotionally and be able to use your logical mind because you'll get a lot further. But that's a whole nother conversation. So I knew I had the knowledge to create wealth from nothing. I've done it before and I knew I had it. And after my little pity party and my little depression, and I was depressed, broke, depressed, like you wouldn't believe. My ego took the biggest blow of all this. I mean, if I had to really say, my pride took the biggest beating. I was Nick, the young, hotshot, successful entrepreneur, and now I'm bankrupt. Like, I'm gonna look like a schmuck. Come on. So, um, I started, after my short pity party, I started making some calls and I started looking at, who I knew or what's this, what's that. And I knew how to wholesale and, and rehab and sell and line up and be able to rehab and sell with no money using borrowed private funds. So I started exhausting everybody and everything that I knew. And in a short period of time, I ended up lining up a deal through just massive talking to people and everything. And I lined up a deal. Um,
When was this? What year?
um, I don't know, maybe 2012. Okay. Um, and lined up a deal, profited. Then I immediately was strategic. I knew, big deal. It's a profit. I took the bare minimum out of it to survive and rolled everything back in to get it to scaling immediately. I'm a firm believer in scaling as your form of protection against negative events. A lot of people think, oh, scaling means, hey, you're doing well, let's go bigger. Scaling also protects you from dips and problems that can occur because there's always going to be a rainy day. As entrepreneurs, we know rainy days are going to come for you, for me, for billionaires, for Mark Cuban, for Warren Buffett. I don't care, what's his name from Virgin. The point is, there's always a rainy day. As smart as you are, the environment is not controllable. But your reaction and your moves you make in accordance with the environment is what you can control. So scaling is beautiful. Scaling, scaling, scaling. So I was like, let me roll some funds in, scale this so I can do more deals and more deals and more deals and more deals. And that's what happened. I started using the funds to produce more deals and more deals. And here we are today in 2016, financially independent, real estate entrepreneur, second time round, proving to people. And I think that's why a lot of people are attracted to my story and want to learn from me because I can relate to them. I get what being broke is. I get that being recently broke. I get the whole picture. Okay. Um, and wealth is truly a mindset. And I've proven that. Okay. You don't have to have resources. You have to be resourceful. When someone does it twice, it's kind of like, yeah, it is possible. Stop with the excuses. So that's kind of summed up in a nutshell. I'm sure there's a lot of gaps in the story that we kind of move through, but that kind of paints the picture of what occurred in my life.
So, because the economy is cyclical, like it goes up and down and up and down and up and down. Hopefully, it goes like this, and then it
Yeah.
goes like in S curves.
Yeah.
So, for the people that are like, "Oh, when's the next bubble? When's the next thing coming?" Um, what? How can you sort of prepare for that? And what do you
Good
talk to
question.
people about that?
Well, good question. And the reality is, number one, stop asking that question. I tell people, like, don't ask that because with my strategies, especially with the single family triad, when the winds change, you adjust your sails. We talked about you can't control the environment, but you can control how you work with the environment. You can work with the environment and make fortunes in up and down markets, especially in real estate. So we're okay with whatever happens. Check. Doesn't matter. Whether it goes up or down, with the right strategies, you're fine. With that being said, I'm glad that another reason, one of many reasons, one of 3 dozen reasons I'm glad I lived through the financial crisis and went through what I went through is because I am able to easier spot peaks and bottoms in different asset classes. I mean, here's a very simple rule of thumb for people asking, how do you spot this or how do you know when something's coming? When everybody is a bull and everybody's bullish, you sell, you need to be a bear. And I'll translate these terms for people who don't know. And when everybody's bearish, you should be a bull. Now, those are stock market terms and asset, kind of terms. Bullish meaning you're hot on the market. Like if you're bullish, for example, if you're quote unquote bullish for real estate, it's going up. It's a good vibes. Everybody, the news is talking. Real estate's going up. Get in real estate. Going up. Get in real estate. Or bearish, or you're a bear, meaning it's going down. Get out of real estate. It's going down. It's going down. When the masses are bullish on anything, I don't care if you're doing stocks, buying gold, whatever it is, when the masses are bullish, be a bear. And when the masses are bearish, and be a bull. And the way you remember that, just so you know, bear and bull, which one they are. Bulls, when they fight in their horns, they fight up to attack, up. So bull up. Bears claw down when they fight. So bear means down. That's a general rule of thumb that if you knew nothing else, that's a great way to spot. So I don't think we're in any extra bullish or extra bearish place, but it doesn't matter, thankfully. But just pay attention to that if you really want to understand where the cycle is going. Fortunately, you don't need the crystal ball to make money. It's just when things happen, understand you have to adjust. So you don't need to predict as long as you know to adjust when it does occur.
Um, one of the things that I've done is to sleep better. Is that I just have a cash reserve, so I know like this cash reserve I can live off X amount of months or X amount of years,
Mm-hmm.
and then it doesn't, things can happen in the market, and I still know that we're cool for this amount of time.
Yeah.
which is of course a difficult thing, is to see, like, learning how to see money and not use it. That I think that's a big lesson for entrepreneurs as well, because one thing I've been thinking about recently is like, okay, what if I took a chunk of that and I invested it in marketing and I launched this thing, and then it would be boom. Sometimes it's difficult to like not
Yeah.
spend reserves, but I call it the rainy day fund. Um,
Yeah.
and it's yeah, it makes
You
me
need
sleep.
some of that. Yeah, money in the bank, it keeps you nice and sleepy at bedtime. You don't have
As
to
long as the
stare at the
bank
ceiling.
doesn't go bankrupt.
Yeah. If your bank closes, then you're staring at the ceiling all night, wondering how you're gonna figure this out. But yes.
But in this day and age with like zero interest, it's hard as well, because like the appreciation of the money is like you're losing money by just having
You're
it in the
losing.
bank.
Cash is a loser in the end.
Yeah,
Time beats you.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, time and inflation beat you if you have straight cash. But
yeah.
it does make you feel good at night when you're laying in bed knowing that no matter what, if everyone took away all your stuff, all your business, you still can be okay. So yeah, there is peace of mind there.
Yeah, yeah. So, what is your strategy? What do you teach people? What is the methodology that you teach?
Well, because of what I've been through, I've able to refine things for the ups and the downs, and I believe it's a huge asset to be someone who has been through what I've been through, because I've seen the worst of the worst, truly. And what I teach people, and there's a lot of ways to approach real estate, multifamilies, commercial, developing, building. I stick with the single family triad, I call it. It's straight single families. It's doing three things. It's wholesaling, which is where you're flipping houses you don't even own. And this is where I start my students. You put a home under contract for a certain price, you bring in a buyer for a higher price, and their funds blanket everything. So you don't need money, you don't need credit, there's no loans, and you pocket the difference. So, for example, you find a discounted home for $75,000 through the strategies I teach. Off market. All these homes are off the market. No one knows about them.
What does that mean?
70
Do you then like go to somebody and then say like, I want to buy your house?
Yeah, you're going to market to motivated sellers, and there's multiple ways to do it. But you're going to have out there your message that you pay cash for homes as is. And the motivated people who have problems of divorce, bankruptcy, inheritance, and all these real world problems that need to get out of properties, or the property needs too much work, it's in distress, they owe taxes. There's many reasons why people just want out, and they'll sell at a discount because of it. You come in, you offer them, let's just say, to keep round numbers, $75,000, and it's worth maybe
Wait,
150 when it's
can I
fixed
ask?
up.
Can I ask a question? So
Yeah.
why doesn't this person just go to like a real estate agent, and like why doesn't the person do it?
Good question.
Yeah.
Time, resources, and repairs. So, number one, they want to sell fast. Average house can sit 3, 6, 8, 12 months on the market. They don't have that time. They have a job transfer. They got to get out of town, or the estate is going to close for their probate. They don't have that time. Number one. Number two, their house probably has too many repairs or updates needed for the traditional buyer who's going to get a home loan and move in. Okay. And maybe it needs foundation work. Maybe it needs all new windows and kitchen and bathroom. And the conventional buyer doesn't have the funds for these things. So they sell to someone who can buy it as is, or they don't have the money to fix things up. There's multiple reasons. And basically, it's a distressed home, a distressed situation that they're in, or a combination of both. So if you have someone who's going to getting a divorce and their house is dumpy and needs a ton of work, they don't have the money or time or resources to remodel their house. And they definitely don't have time for open houses every Sunday for the next 6 months with tire kickers and people playing games. So they raise their hand and they say, oh, you buy houses cash, you can close in 2 weeks and take it as is, no inspections, no nothing. Here you go. And they sell it at a discount. It happens all the time.
And
And then
how do you find these types of people? What
marketing, direct mail, bandit signs, ads in local publications.
what is a bandit sign, just for our international audience?
Yeah, bandit sign is like a little corrugated plastic sign that says cash for your house and your phone number. You put it on the side of the road, and then that it brings attention, and it works. It freaking works. I have students all the time that put these out, and I had a student I just did a testimonial call with the other day. He spent $1.50 on a sign, and it produced him $5,000 in a wholesale profit. So again, you lock it up at 75. Let's say you find the seller, 75,000. Then you find one of your buyers. How I show you how to find these cash buyers that buy these and rehab them. he was willing to pay 85 because he knows when he fixes it up, maybe it's worth 140 or something, let's say, right? He pays 85. His 85 blankets the whole transaction. So the seller gets 75, you get your 10,000 for facilitating it, and he gets the house. So you just made $10,000 using no money and no credit. That's wholesaling. I mean, it's a beautiful. I had a guy who started 8 months ago. He's done over 20 deals now. It's You don't need any resources. You just have to be a hustling entrepreneur. So that's part one of the triad. That's where I start usually everyone, because no risk, no barriers to entry. You have no risk. Okay. Part two, just so you know.
I've got another question. So
Yeah.
you don't need the 75,000.
No, the buyer's funds blanket all of that.
Right. So you do a deal with them where you say, "Oh, I'll give you 75,000 within the time
You
frame."
put it under contract. So you're under contract to purchase for 75. But all you're doing is assigning the rights of that contract to a third party. You fulfill the bottom line. The contract states you will get $75,000 in 3 weeks. Doesn't matter where it comes from. You fulfill your obligation to give them 75. So as long as in 3 weeks they have 75,000 in their hands, what you did on how to get it doesn't matter. You fulfilled your legal obligation and you're golden. The buyer loves you because he just bought a discounted house for 85. When he fixes it up, it'll be worth 140. So he's happy. He has no problem.
So
you
kind
get
of
your
like
10.
a talent scout. Like you're out there looking for like talent with potential, and then you match them with the team.
In a way, you're a matchmaker, and you make
Matchmaker.
healthy fees doing it. Yes,
Right.
you make very healthy fees. And the beauty of it is, entrepreneurs, as we know, as you know, make money solving problems. You see a problem, you solve it, you get paid. That's what all entrepreneurs do in any industry. You're solving a double problem here. You're solving a seller's problem, who I just discussed, is going through tough times, tough house, got to get out. Check, solve his problem. But you're also solving the buyer's problem. He's looking on the market for discounted homes, and it's everyone's fighting over them because they're on the market. They're online. Everyone's fighting, bidding up. You call him with an address that no one knows about but you. He loves that. That's a big problem you're solving. An off-market deal. Hey, John, I got this place for 85,000. It's worth 140. It's not on the market. Nobody knows about it. Come in with cash. I'll give it to you. You're solving two problems. You get paid 10 grand. Everybody freaking wins. It's beautiful. That's wholesaling in a nutshell. And it's a great way to start. It's how I didn't start that way when I told you my story. I did it a completely different way. But after all the fine tuning and all the revisions and all the things I've been through, it's where I start people, because you don't have to tie up a dime, and you don't need credit. You can file bankruptcy yesterday with $0 and do one of these deals. That's the beauty of it. So that's the first part of the triad. In the main part, I get people into.
What are some of the things to be aware of in that deal?
Well, you have to be aware of the marketplace, which is easy to do now with technology. You have to know what houses are worth, and there's websites like Zillow.com and things to where you can see, because you want to make sure you offer something that is discounted to where your buyers are going to come in for more. But the beauty of it is, even if in the beginning you stumble and make the wrong offers, you can easily get out of the offers with a simple escape clause like this offer is contingent on my partner's approval. And then, you can just realize, what, this isn't going to work out, and you can get out of it. So again,
you put that in the contract
you put that in the contract, and then it also allows you then to walk your buyers through, because they are kind of like your financial partners. So it's kind of a winning proposition to do that for yourself. And remember, these sellers are motivated. They just want to get out. So they're going to be okay with selling their house at a discount and doing it that way. You're more in control because you're helping them. But there's not a whole lot to be aware of or worried about, just because there is no risk. You're not putting up thousands. You're not putting your credit on the line for a deal. You just have to. The main thing to be aware of is gaining rapport with people. It's a people business. You have to learn how to talk to people. We are in the people business, the human being business. The houses are just how we transact with each other. And I tell my sellers that, I tell my buyers that, just learn to be interested in people, and you're going to go a long way in this business or any business.
So let's say you're like an introvert and you want to get into this business. How would you start their training? What kind of training could they do?
I would say,
can they go do public speaking or?
No. They don't need to mess with any of that. All they need to do is make their first phone call and break that threshold. And that's an easy threshold to break. And you're going to stutter. You're going to say all the wrong things. You're going to talk to a seller and just talk. And this is what I tell my students too. talk to all sellers, even the ones that aren't motivated, where you know there's not going to be a deal, because it's a low stakes situation where you can just have conversations. So when the real deals come along, where there's money on the line that you could be making, you're more experienced. See, the beauty of experience in this business and in any business is it's automatic if you keep doing it. You don't have to think about how to gain experience. You just make the call, and your brain, I mean, this is all neuroscience. Your brain starts slowly rewiring itself into a new norm, into a new comfort level. So when you make the second call and the third call, see what happens is the amygdala in the brain starts reacting when you do things you're very uncomfortable with, and it says, "Stay away. This is unsafe." Okay, back to the primitive lizard brain of survival. It has nothing to do with survival, but the environment we're in has stressors all around us that are inaccurate. We're fine. We're safe humans. No one's attacked. We don't have people attack or like animals attacking us, but we have to train our brain that this is a safety zone. And as you slowly break these thresholds and just make calls and just talk, slowly that part of the brain calms down and says, "Oh, you know what? Erlend or Nick can do this thing and it's going to be okay. So we're going to take it easy. We're going to release less of this cortisol or adrenaline and all these different hormones. We're going to release less of that because what they're doing, we've seen now. And this pattern is recognized that they're safe." So that's the beauty of it. I mean, experience is automatic with slow, realizations and threshold breaking. So you make the calls, and then boom, pretty soon you're like, "Oh, this is my new normal." The first call is all I care about. Make the first call.
I think that's a really, really good way to explain how we learn. I've never heard anybody explain it in the way you just did.
Yeah.
Don't tell Tony Robbins because he'll start using it.
You're right. Well, I'm obsessive with psychology and the workings of the brain. In fact,
Right.
that's like my obsession. That's my hobby outside of entrepreneurship, which I believe that hobby has helped me as an entrepreneur, because at the end of the day, everything we do involves humans and how the brain and psychology works. Everything. I don't care if you're the biggest tech geek behind a computer screen. What you're doing involves humans in one way or the other, because somewhere along those wires, it's going to go up to the other side and there's a human. And if it doesn't go, if it goes to another computer, there's a human connect. So bottom line, everything comes down to human nature. The cycles of the market, the stock market, it's all about fear and emotion. Human emotion runs this world. It always has and it always will. And when you understand that foundationally, anything you do will become easier and it will become more understandable. Just break everything down to human nature. In fact, everything people do, I always love to tie up to primitive humans, like we're talking about with the amygdala, the lizard brain they call it. It's a part of the brain that when stressors and unsafe environments occur, this is what tells you, get away, get away. But unfortunately, these things that we're scared of nowadays have nothing to do with survival. So as soon as you do it once, the brain loves patterns. It loves to recognize things, to make it easier on itself for next time. So then pretty soon a whole new pattern is developed to where you don't have to think. It just happens. So the beauty of introverts or whoever's scared of this, that, and the other, you make the first call, and the second call is easier by neuroscience, not by anything you have to do. You don't have to consciously think about, "Oh, I better gain more experience," or, after the call, be like, "Now, did I learn this? Am I getting the experience?" It's automatic. That's just the way your brain works. Fortunately for you, it learns your new behavior. So the more you do it, the more it's going to learn it and react appropriately and move you forward with a logical mind. Again, back to the amygdala. I don't want to go crazy on this, but it's important. When you're in these environments, that part of the brain takes over your logical mind, and that's why you stutter. That's why you deep breathe, and that's why you're premeditating your words. Premeditation, you're thinking, "I'm going to say this," and then you say it. That's how it works, and it takes away from that part of the brain that's more of a flowy kind of brain, and we don't want that. But again, fortunately for you, the more you do it, the calmer that one comes, and then the flow comes out.
Can you go back? Like, so let's say you've been like putting yourself in lots of extreme situations. The amygdala doesn't produce as much cortisol, but let's say you kind of stop putting yourself under, like if you stop going to the gym.
Can you backslide? Yes, you can. It's like a muscle. That's exactly right. As long as you're constantly strengthening that brain connection, it's going to get stronger and stronger, which the stronger it is will allow more time for relapse. And what I mean by that is, let's say you get really good and then you take 6 months off. If you got to a certain point, like anything else, yes, it'll take longer for you to lose that skill set, lose that new association in your brain, etc. The point is you don't want to abuse it and, you know what I mean, go from there. I mean, You want to continue to grow it. It is like a muscle. If you get ripped up and you're at the gym every day and you take a 2-week vacation, yeah, you're fine. You're not going to be you can go on a cruise and eat steaks and lobsters every day, and you're not going to look like a fat slob when you get off the cruise ship because you've worked so hard for that long to build it. But, stay on track, jump back in. So I'm not saying every day this and that, but good question. But yes, backsliding and loss of muscle can occur if you abuse the timelines and sit on your couch all day.
When people go on a cruise, they come as people and they leave as cargo. Have you heard that?
I haven't. That's interesting though. I have not heard that.
Yeah,
They come as people.
That's an Oklahoma joke.
Okay.
Yeah, I heard that from somebody in Oklahoma.
Okay, interesting. All right.
Okay, so let's get back to real estate. So wholesaling. Okay, so I understand the concept. What is the next? So in that situation though, I'd be going like, ooh, this sounds good. I got this house for 75. If I just got some people in there and fixed it up a little bit, I could be making 150.
That's the next step. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the second part of the triad. And I spend a lot of my personal time in this part of the triad. I love it. Buying where you actually close on the house. So you buy it for the 75. You put 20,000 or 30,000 into it and you sell it for 140 and make yourself 30 or 40 grand or whatever it is. So that's the second part where you actually buy it, fix it up, and sell it on the retail market. That's a little different play. And there are ways to do that with no money or credit either. You don't need credit. You borrow private funds from people. So little higher barrier to entry, obviously. You're not just facilitating and doing a few pieces of paper. Like you're actually, managing a small construction site, which is not a big deal. Anybody can do it. It's very, very easily done. But a few more steps, but a lot more profit. That's the second part of the triad. And that's a lot of times what the guy buying it from you when you wholesale, that's what he's doing. When you flip it with the wholesaling, he's buying it and rehabbing it and selling it. And then the third part of the triad is rentals, where you actually buy the house, fix it up, clean it up, whatever, and then bring in a tenant to pay you rent every month to live in that single family. And that it has its own set of benefits. Each of them has their own set of benefits. This one has the rentals have their monthly passive income, the long-term wealth appreciation. It's going to grow over time, the value, and depreciation and tax shelters. There's depreciation. I'm not going to go deep into it now, but it's an accounting scenario to where you can depreciate part of the asset against your income and that's why a lot of people who create wealth in other industries still buy real estate, because it is a tax shelter when you hold it. It makes you pay less taxes to the government. I don't want to get into the complicated details of it, but you pay less in taxes when you hold real estate. So each part of the triad has their own benefit. And I want people to graduate from wholesaling. You start doing those, get into rehabbing, get into rentals. And I want you to operate like I do in all three parts of the triad. You'll have infinite wealth for life if you can master this triad. And that's the bottom line.
So at some point, do you do a little bit of all of them at the same time?
Absolutely. Yeah. I personally operate in the three parts all the time. I'm doing all different kinds of deals all the time within that triad. I'm holding some, I'm wholesaling some, and I'm rehabbing and selling some. My newer students are doing heavily wholesaling in the beginning because it's no cash, no credit, nice large profits to put them on the map quickly. And then from there,
obviously you need some cash to actually buy, to buy and hold. You actually need
when you get in,
capital, right?
Especially with the holding. Having some capital available. There are ways to buy and hold with no money. But the reality is I like people getting into those arenas once they do have capital built up. They've done, 10 wholesale deals where they have 50 or 100 grand laying around where they can start, having that, ease to get into things a little easier. So that's why I kind of have people graduate kind of thing. You know what I mean? And wholesaling is just a beautiful way to start because it just puts you on the map so quickly with no risk.
So what about all the legal stuff? For me, it sounds all good and well, but what about all the legal technicalities that come into play? I mean, you mentioned the contract and all that, but it still sounds to me like 75,000 on a deal. I'm like, ooh, that's a bit scary,
Yeah. Well, here's the deal. Fortunately, there's these things called title companies and escrow companies, or some places have title attorneys that handle it. Whatever it is, you simply put the contract to buy for $75,000 and you get your buyer to contract for the $10,000 assignment fee or the $85,000. And you forward these simple pieces of paper that are signed to a title company. They take care of closing the deal, bringing in the funds, wiring in the money. Like you don't get money doesn't exchange with you and the seller. Funds come like you're buying in that example we used, the 85,000. That buyer wires in the 85,000 to the title company, who then disperses the funds to the seller, to me as the wholesaler, etc. So there's not a lot of legal things you have to worry about. You have to worry about solving their problem, getting them their 75 under contract so they can go to bed at night knowing, you know what, in 2 weeks, Nick's going to give me 75,000 and I get to get out of this damn house. Problem solved. Your buyer's like, he's excited for his new deal where he's going to be making his money on the rehab. So once you solve those two problems, again, you forward the contracts to the title company and they close the transactions. They pull title, they do all the deed recording. So the beauty of technology and title companies is there's not much you have to do legally beyond that point. You just fill out a couple simple forms and they handle the closing, they handle everything. You're just in the business of solving these problems and putting it in writing that you'll solve these problems.
So in the second part that you talked about, the renovations part, what are things to look out for there? I mean, if you look at a property and then suddenly you have to demolish the whole building because it's got some kind of, I don't know, ants or something.
Yeah, there's uncertainty. When it comes to rehabbing and selling, what I tell my new people is hire an inspector. I don't have home inspectors anymore, but hire a really good home inspector on your first few deals. Number one, to make sure you don't miss anything. I mean, these are professionals that walk through every square inch of the home. And number two, it's the best education you can get on the structure of a home. So you spend 4 hours with them walking through the house. So as they find things, they show you. And then after you do that a few times, you'll be able to know what to look for. When you say ants or termites or, multitude of other things that could occur, you're going to understand how to look for those and what can happen. And don't get me wrong, there's always some semi-uncertainty in certain scenarios. But the point is, you get educated really fast when you walk with a home inspector through a couple of your first deals. And then you know what? The beauty, you're safe because you hire an inspector and he finds things that scare you and just don't work out. You can walk away from the deal. So a few more things to deal with, but at the same time, it's a fast education to where you're still going to remain safe.
So basically, you don't need a home inspector anymore because you've viewed like hundreds of houses.
Thousands of homes. Yes, I've walked through thousands of homes. So, but with that being said, like I said, sometimes there is a little bit of uncertainty, and I kind of pad that into the price. If I know that there's a situation that could come up where I don't know what's going to be behind that wall, I'll make sure to make my offer accordingly. But as many deals as I've seen, sometimes uncertainty still comes there. But the beauty of it is I've developed that uncertainty skill to where I can maneuver and act around it. But in the beginning, hire an inspector, understand what to look for. And then as you move forward, you won't need one. So yeah, it's like anything else. You're building the muscle of experience.
Do you recommend like a 3-part split? So like a third of your money is wholesaling?
No, I don't. I don't. And the reason I do that is because the deals come how they come. And if 5 deals come your way that are perfect wholesale deals, do them all. I'm not one on this pie chart thing. And I've had people ask me that and they're like, this one guy told me I'm supposed to have, like that, like a third, and third. And I'm going, no. Deals come how they come. You cannot plan these deals. Okay. This isn't like the stock market where you can choose different portfolios and there's, a million options. No. Houses come how they come. And if 5 of them come in areas that is perfect for wholesaling, do all 5 that way. And if 5 rentals come in this area, they come how they come, just execute accordingly. And I feel like that rigidity and that ideology that you're talking about that someone could be married to is what gets you into trouble in the rocky roads and the cycles of the market. So if you're third, and third, and the market says do otherwise, you need to do otherwise. And that's why I'm saying navigate as they come. When you see the winds coming from all these different directions, you got to get that sail out and move it the way it needs to be moved. You can't push the wind that way because there's an ideology you love. All ideologies and strategies go out the window when the economy changes. Yeah. And that's why the maneuvering is key. So I am not a believer in structuring it that way. To make a short answer long.
Fantastic. Well, we are doing a webinar. If you're watching this this video, I'm not sure when you're watching this video, but if you're watching this video after we've done our webinar, how can we get more information about you? What is the place to go to get more information about these strategies? So if you were watching this and you say like, okay, this is something I can do. Nick did it when he was 18. If he did it when he was 18, I can do it when I'm whatever you are.
Yeah.
Where do we go?
alphahomeflipping.com. Alpha with a PH. alphahomeflipping.com. Check me out there. You can email me from there, say hi. And then also, I'm very active on Instagram at Alpha Home Flipping. It's the social platform of my choice. I can take pictures of my deals. I do little videos. Honestly, like seriously, follow me on Instagram at Alpha Home Flipping. I'm constantly trying to give value with the right psychologies, motivations, because real estate, all the how-to information in the world in any industry, I can't harp this enough. How to do and make money in real estate is one thing, but your mindset going into it is what actually matters, believe it or not.
So guys, you heard it here with Nick Ruiz. And check out his book, Flip, an unconventional guide to becoming a real estate entrepreneur and building your dream. You can get that on Amazon. It's got lots and lots of reviews. So lots of people have liked it and enjoyed it. So, and if you enjoyed this video podcast and you watched it on YouTube, please hit the like, or if you didn't like it, hit dislike. And we always love your comments underneath as well. If you're listening on iTunes, why not spend a few seconds writing us a review? It helps us reach a larger audience, stay present, stay relevant, and always be upping our game. Nick, thank you for being on the show.
Erlend, thanks, man. It's been a pleasure. I had fun.
Thank you.
This podcast is brought to you by MrOutsource.com. Outsourcing to the Philippines done for you. Mr. Outsource is a recruitment company matching busy entrepreneurs with Filipino virtual assistants, so you can have the time to focus on what's important.